Welcome to the True Alien Podcast. Forget your usual UFO stories today because we're diving headfirst into something genuinely strange and honestly pretty terrifying.
That's right. We're talking about the 1955 Kentucky Goblins Incident.
Near Kelly, Kentucky. Picture this. A rural farmhouse suddenly under siege by these things with glowing eyes. It's a wild one.
Absolutely. And for this paranormal probe, we're digging into the actual first-hand accounts from that night, plus looking at the investigations that came after. It's a case that still, baffles people.
Our mission today is pretty clear. Let's unpack this incredibly weird story, look at the facts as they were reported, and explore why this 1955 Kentucky encounter just sticks around. We're not talking little green men here.
No, definitely not. These were something else entirely. Think home invasion, but by creatures that sound almost folkloric.
But supposedly real. Okay, let's get into it. Where and when did this all kick off?
The setting is key here. August 21st, 1955. A farmhouse out in the countryside near Kelly, Kentucky.
And who's there?
11 people packed into this farmhouse. Most were members of the Sutton family, plus a visitor they had, a guy named Billy Ray Taylor. Just regular summer evening, supposedly.
Okay, so 11 people. Starts normal, but then...
Then the weirdness begins, but kind of low-key at first. Around 7 p.m., Billy Ray Taylor, he's the visitor from Pennsylvania.
Right?
He sees something odd. A bright light, multicolored, streaks across the sky, and seems to go down in a gully nearby.
He tells the others.
Yeah, he mentions it. But, they kind of brush it off initially.
Okay.
A light in the sky, maybe a meteor, who knows?
Happens all the time. Easy to dismiss.
Exactly. It's often how these things start, isn't it? An odd observation that doesn't really register until things escalate. We tend to filter out the extraordinary.
Until you can't ignore it anymore. So what happens next?
About an hour later, around 8 p.m., things get louder. The family dog outside just starts losing it.
Going absolutely nuts. Barking, howling.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Clearly agitated by something out there. So Billy Ray Taylor and one of the Suttons, Lucky Sutton, grab some guns.
Makes sense in a rural area of something spooking the dog. What did they have?
Billy Ray had a shotgun. Lucky had a .22 rifle. They head outside to see what's got the dog so worked up.
And this is where it stops being about a weird light or a spook dog.
This is where they see them. Small humanoid figures. Only about 3 to 4 feet tall.
Not animals, then. Not raccoons or anything like that.
Definitely not. The descriptions are way too specific, too strange.
Okay, paint the picture. What did these things look like, according to them?
They described oversized heads, big pointed ears, almost bat-like or elfin, wide mouths but with no real lips, spindly legs.
Spindly legs, okay.
And hands that ended in claws, like talons.
Claws, seriously.
That's what they said. But the most striking thing, their eyes. Large, round, and glowing yellow.
Glowing yellow eyes, that's nightmare fuel right there. What about their skin or body?
Described as sort of silvery, maybe a greenish-gray metallic sheen. And the way they moved was unnatural, too.
Yes.
They described this odd swaying motion, like they're floating or gliding slightly above the ground, not really walking.
Floating! Wow! Okay, these descriptions are incredibly bizarre and consistent between the witnesses.
Apparently so. Especially considering the stress of the situation, these weird, specific details coming from both men independently. It gives you pause.
So you step outside, see that, you're armed, what do you do?
Exactly what you'd probably expect. They confronted them.
Meaning they opened fire?
Yes. Billy Ray let loose with his shotgun at one, close range. Lucky fired the .22 at another.
And did it stop them?
This is another really strange part. Instead of, the sound of hitting flesh or bone, they heard a metallic pling.
Pling? Like hitting a metal can?
That's the description. Like the bullets ricocheted off something hard, or the creature itself was somehow metallic.
You shoot something that looks alive, and it sounds like scrap metal. What does that even mean?
It's incredibly anomalous. Suggests something completely outside our biological understanding, maybe, or some kind of shielding.
What happened to the creature they shot?
According to the reports, the one hit by the shotgun blast flipped over, like he was knocked down.
Okay, so it had some effect.
But then it just got right back up and zipped away into the darkness really fast.
Caught up and ran away after a point-blank shotgun blast that sounded like it hit metal. Okay, this is escalating quickly.
You'd think that would be the end of it, maybe scare him off for good.
Yeah, you'd hope. Run back inside, lock everything down.
But apparently, that was just the opening salvo. This encounter wasn't over, not by a long shot.
Don't tell me they came back.
They did, and more of them appeared. The situation turned from a brave, weird confrontation into, a siege.
A siege. of the farmhouse by these goblin things.
That's how the family described it. The creatures started peeking into the windows, climbing up onto the porch roof.
Oh, come on. Peeking in the windows, that's terrifying. Imagine seeing those glowing eyes looking back at you through the glass.
Absolutely chilling. And
Yeah.
it got even more direct, more aggressive.
Mm.
At one point, a creature supposedly reached down from the low overhang above the front door and tried to grab someone's hair. One of the men standing near the door.
Tried to grab someone. Okay, that crosses a line from weird sighting to direct hostile interaction.
It suggests a level of intent, maybe curiosity, maybe aggression, that's deeply unsettling. They weren't just observing, they were interacting.
So the family's trapped inside. These things are all around the house. Bullets sound like they're hitting tin cans. What did they do? Just keep shooting.
They said they did. Whenever they saw one, they'd fire.
Same result. That metallic pling.
Same result, same weird sound. The creatures would get knocked down, maybe seem stunned for a second, but then they'd just recover and come back, or others would take their place.
Relentless.
And this went on for hours. According to their accounts, this terrifying back and forth lasted for about 4 hours.
4 hours. Surrounded by these things, shooting at them, and they just keep coming back. The psychological toll must have been immense.
Unimaginable. Finally, around 11 p.m., after nearly 4 hours of this ordeal, they saw a break, a chance to get out.
Oh.
They just decided to make a run for it. All 11 of them, men, women, children, piled into 2 cars.
11 people in 2 cars. Must have been packed tight.
Absolutely. And they floored it, driving 7 miles to the nearest town with a police station, Hopkinsville.
That drive must have been pure terror, looking over your shoulder the whole way. What happened when they got to the police?
You can imagine the scene. 11 utterly terrified people bursting into the station late at night, babbling about glowing-eyed creatures attacking their farmhouse.
How did the police react? Chief Russell Greenwell, was it?
Yes, Chief Greenwell.
Yeah.
He listened to their story. Apparently their fear was palpable, very genuine. They weren't drunk. They seemed coherent, just scared out of their minds.
So he took them seriously.
Enough to investigate. He gathered several officers, state troopers, maybe even a news photographer, and they all headed back out to the Sutton farm.
Okay, so the cavalry arrives. What did they find when they got back to the house? Did they see the creatures?
No creatures were seen by the police, but they definitely found evidence that something had happened.
Like what?
Bullet holes all over the place, around windows and doors,
Yeah.
spent shotgun shells, and .22 casings littering the yard. Clear signs of a firefight.
So proof the family had been shooting at something. But no creatures, no footprints either, right? The ground was too dry.
Exactly. Dry, hard ground. Despite the family claiming these things were right there in the yard, police couldn't find any definitive tracks, which is another classic layer of weirdness in these cases.
Evidence of the fight, but the fighters vanished without a trace. Classic high strangeness. But didn't the police notice something else unusual? Something on the ground?
They did. Chief Greenwell reported finding an odd, luminous green patch on the ground, right near where the family said they'd shot one of the creatures near a fence.
Luminous green. Like glowing.
That's the description. He even said it seemed to fade after a while. No explanation for what caused it. Slime. Some kind of residue. Who knows?
A glowing patch that fades? Adds another layer of weirdness. So police find evidence of shooting this weird patch, but no creatures. What then?
Well, with no active threat visible, the police eventually left. It's late. Nothing more they can really do at that point.
And the family, they had to go back home after all that.
They did. Can you imagine the dread? Going back into that house after hours of being besieged by whatever those things were?
I can't even fathom it. Did anything else happen after the police left?
Incredibly, yes. According to the family, their ordeal wasn't over yet.
You're kidding me. They came back again.
That's the claim. After the police were gone, the creatures reappeared and apparently continued their strange activity around the house, peering in windows, maybe moving on the roof until just before dawn.
Unbelievable persistence. It's like they were determined to stay until sunrise. What does that even suggest? Were they sensitive to light?
It's one interpretation. Or maybe they just accomplished whatever they set out to do. The why is maybe the biggest mystery of all.
So this insane night finally ends. What happens the next day? News must have spread.
Oh, it spread all right. And it reached the ears of the Air Force at nearby Fort Campbell. This brought Project Blue Book into the picture.
Ah, Project Blue Book. The Air Force's official and often skeptical UFO investigation team at the time. What did they make of it?
They followed their standard procedure, sent investigators, interviewed the family members, collected the testimony.
Did they find an explanation?
Officially, no.
Yeah.
Their final conclusion on the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter was unidentified.
Unidentified. That's pretty significant coming from Blue Book, who were, let's be honest, often looking for ways to debunk things.
It means even they couldn't easily pin it on a known phenomenon, though apparently they did briefly float one idea.
Let me guess. Was it weather balloons? Swamp gas?
Close, they considered. Great horned owls.
Owls. Seriously, great horned owls. How do they get owls from 3-foot-tall, glowing-eyed, silvery humanoids with claws that make metallic sounds when shot?
Seems like a stretch, doesn't it?
A massive stretch. Let's break that down. Why is the owl theory just, well, frankly, ridiculous?
Where do you start? Owls don't look anything like the description. Small body, big head, glowing eyes. Claws, sure, but not silvery, not humanoid, no big pointy ears like that, no lipless mouths.
Right. And do owls react to shotgun blasts by making a metallic pling sound and then just getting up and floating away?
Highly unlikely. And do owls coordinate to lay siege to a house for 4 hours, peek in windows, and try to grab people's hair from the roof?
I'm going to go with a hard no on that one.
It just doesn't fit the reported phenomena on multiple fundamental levels. It feels like an attempt to find any conventional explanation, no matter how poor the fit.
Suggests maybe the official investigation wasn't exactly exhaustive or perhaps had a predetermined outcome in mind.
It raises questions about thoroughness and potential bias, certainly.
Okay, stepping back from the owl absurdity, what are the big takeaways from this whole Kentucky Goblins incident for you? What stands out?
Well, first, the idea that conventional weapons might just be useless against certain unknown entities. That metallic sound is key.
Yeah, that's a sobering thought. If you can't shoot it, what do you do?
Second, the persistence. Just because you scare something off once doesn't mean it's gone for good. This was a prolonged encounter.
Need to be prepared for the long haul, potentially.
And third, maybe the most important, is questioning official narratives when they just don't add up, like the owl theory. Critical thinking is crucial.
It makes you think about defense differently, doesn't it? If guns don't work, what's plan B against glowing-eyed goblins? It sounds absurd, but based on their account.
It forces you to consider alternatives and the need for escape plans, resilience, and definitely, like you said, maintaining skepticism towards explanations that seem illogical.
We've used some terms here. Kentucky Goblins, obviously. What else comes up when people discuss this case?
Well, the creatures are often called the Kentucky Goblins, or Hopkinsville Goblins, since Hopkinsville was the town they fled to. The event itself is the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter.
In Project Blue Book, we mentioned them.
Right, the Air Force investigators.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is often cited as a prime example of high strangeness.
High strangeness. Good term for it. Just deeply, deeply weird and hard to explain.
Exactly. Events that defy easy categorization within what we consider normal reality.
Let's circle back to the witnesses. Lucky Sutton's description was pretty detailed, wasn't it?
Very. He consistently talked about the size, around 3.5 feet, the huge heads, eyes far apart, arms longer than their legs, almost down to the ground,
And the hands.
claw-like hands or talons.
Yeah.
And he really emphasized that floating movement, like they weren't quite touching the earth.
What does that floating suggest? Anti-gravity, different physics.
It's wide open to speculation, but it certainly adds to the non-terrestrial feel of the descriptions.
And Billy Ray Taylor, the first one to see the light, he backed up that floating movement too.
He did. He described it as a float, not walking, and specifically said they seemed to have no feet, or at least none that were visible or used for walking.
Wow. He also said one charged him, right?
Yes, he recounted one coming directly at him at one point, which definitely underscores that this wasn't passive. They were interacting, sometimes aggressively, makes simple misidentification harder to argue.
And we shouldn't forget the police assessment either. Chief Greenwell seemed to believe the family was genuinely terrified.
His observation that they weren't intoxicated and that their stories matched up, even under duress, adds a layer of credibility. Consistency among 11 witnesses is hard to dismiss lightly.
Especially when they stuck to that story for years, right? Decades even.
That's one of the most compelling points, I think. 11 people, including kids, maintained these incredibly bizarre descriptions over their lifetimes, even though they faced a lot of ridicule for it.
People laughed at them, called it a hoax.
They did. But that consistency over that long period really argues against a simple lie or shared delusion. It suggests they truly believed they experienced what they described.
And there wasn't really a motive for a hoax, was there? Did the Suttons get rich or famous from this?
Not really. They didn't seem to profit significantly. They mostly got skepticism and unwanted attention. It weakens the hoax for gain argument considerably. They endured it rather than benefited from it.
Plus, the location near Fort Campbell always adds that extra wrinkle.
It inevitably fuels speculation. Was it some kind of military experiment gone wrong and escaped? Something. There's no evidence, but the proximity always makes people wonder.
It's just one more possibility in a sea of strangeness.
Exactly. And even Blue Book couldn't slap a definitive label on it beyond unidentified. For them, that's quite telling.
So if we throw out the owl theory as completely inadequate, what are we left with? What are the possible interpretations here?
Well, you could theoretically argue for escaped exotic pets, but the descriptions just don't match anything known. Mass hysteria is always a possibility in group sightings.
But for 4 hours, with interactive elements and consistent details, seems less likely.
It does stretch the definition of mass hysteria. Then you move into the more out-there possibilities. Unknown cryptids native to the area.
Like undiscovered animals?
Maybe. Or interdimensional beings briefly crossing over. Extraterrestrials, the classic explanation for high strangeness.
Or, back to Fort Campbell, some kind of advanced, maybe biological or robotic military experiment.
All are on the table purely as speculation because the core event remains so profoundly unexplained by conventional means.
So the Kentucky Goblins Incident, it just hangs there in paranormal history, doesn't it? Utterly baffling, deeply unsettling.
11 people swore they were attacked by these bizarre creatures. The official explanations feel paper-thin. It forces you to question.
What really went down that night in Kelly? Misidentification that got wildly out of hand. An elaborate, pointless hoax. Or something else.
Something genuinely alien, in the broadest sense of the word.
The details just hook you in the glowing eyes, the claws, the floating, that sound the bullets made, their sheer persistence. It's terrifying, but also just so fascinatingly weird.
It's a perfect example of high strangeness. Leaves you with way more questions than answers, and it really pushes you to think, well, what if our cozy understanding of reality isn't the full picture?
What if there's more lurking out there, just beyond the edges of what we think is possible?
It certainly makes you wonder about what else might be sharing this planet or this reality with us.
Definitely something to keep in mind. Keep those strange skies and maybe the strange shadows in your thoughts. Until our next paranormal probe, everyone, stay curious.